welcome listeners to the first live episode of the Next Gen Models podcast. I am here with Miss Liliana Bogart, and she is a New York-based model. She's been in the field for 6 years, multiple seasons of New York Fashion Week, several editorials, and has just really been grinding her way through this industry. So Liliana, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm definitely excited to be here and just talk about modeling, the good things and bad things. I wish I would have known, when I was younger. So definitely some good information that we can pass on.
Yeah, that's kind of, my hope and mission with this book and this podcast is really just to inform. Like you said, the industry has its good side and its bad side. I'm really non-biased. Like, I don't have any feelings like one way or another towards the industry. I think that it's a beautiful thing. I think that we need art and beauty and fashion and these forms of expression, being back at Fashion Week, at, the shows and seeing people after years of quarantine on stage or, the runway and being confident and watching the crowds, like, admire the pieces and feeling the energy like in person was so beautiful. I actually like had little tears in my eyes for a little moment. And it was a reminder that we absolutely, need those things, that it gives life meaning. But I think we can both agree that, some of the things that go on behind the scenes and what it really takes to get there and make these things come together, there are some areas for improvement. I love the era that we're in of like female empowerment, and the internet is a great place to illuminate these issues and be able to use our voice.
Right.
And it is amazing to me how much I think collectively we're all sort of looking back at things that have taken place and been like, wait, what the fuck? Like,
yeah,
why did we ever?
It's always like how did we let this happen? But like the reality is that like a lot of those same things happen still. I just think that people are starting to get better about talking about it. Like, even with the supermodels now, like Carla Bruni and all of them speaking out about sexual assault from, their time when it was like the 90s and stuff. And they're just now, getting to a place where they're actually like bringing awareness to it and like bringing that to light. And that is a great thing about social media, is that we're, actually talking more about these things that like have always been taboo topics, or, just swept under the rug. Oh, it's no big deal. Oh, it's part of this. Like it's just like expected, like, oh, but you're just a model. You're just a body. You're just
a statue.
Right.
I know. Writing this book has actually been kind of traumatic for me because, I stepped away from the industry during the pandemic, as many of us did, or things kind of at least slowed down. And that was what really allowed me to reflect on some of these things. And then now coming back to New York and really just like having these conversations with models and like kind of being in these same sort of like circles and socialite things, I was unpacking so much trauma that I didn't fully process. And it's been kind of heavy because I realized like how the industry has affected the way that I view myself.
We can sit here all day. Trust me. Trust me.
And not just physically, because of course, like that's a whole thing that, is people I think expect. Like, like models have like body dysmorphia and like this and that, whatever. And it's like, yes, but even deeper than that, you start to internalize these misogynistic ideals that the most valuable thing that I'm going to get emotional. I'm not going to cry on video camera. That's not going to happen. But you get this like really sad internalization that the most valuable thing that you have to offer is your appearance, your body, sex. When you're a model, like there are many people, many terrible people. If you're ever dealing with people like this, like just cut them right out. But you don't know that when you're young. But people don't really want anything from you other than your beauty and your physical, whether that be to enhance the environment, to admire you, or to pursue you romantically or sexually. And they don't, like you said, like they see you as just like a mannequin or a statue. Like they don't expect you to be intelligent,
Right.
or kind or funny. Like they're like, oh, like when you say something,
Yeah, they're
smart,
like, wow, you have a personality?
that's crazy. Like they don't ask these questions about your education or your thoughts on XYZ, because it it just, for the longest time, models were not associated with, I guess, like just being like human beings. It was
No, it's just like you're pretty and like shallow, but that's okay because you're pretty. So just
people, they didn't believe that you could be pretty and then also, passionate and intelligent. And the reason for that, and the reason that I myself had identified just as a model, and I think why so many of us did before the pandemic, was because it truly is a full-time job
right.
to maintain all of these facets of your, like I said, your physical and mental health, but then also like your image and, your how you're put together. Your social media became a thing too. So it was like, I've noticed, and I've talked to some friends I have a friend who has a master's degree, and she started modeling really seriously like after she graduated. And she was like, yeah, I don't feel as mentally sharp anymore, because all of my thoughts, like from the moment that I wake up, are about, okay, how clear is my skin? I
Right.
need to be drinking water. I need to go get one of those like turmeric cayenne shots. I need to get a juice. I need to go to this Pilates class. And I had a friend tell me this, like, make sure you're staying up on like, your podcast or your education, continuing your education if you're not in school, or have something outside of modeling that keeps your brain in critical thinking, and keeps you aware of the world. Because when you get sucked into like, you're so focused on, your success, and it's all appearance based,
Right.
That's a very fragile ecosystem. I think, with the feminist movement, the modeling industry is going to change dramatically. It already has. And I think, it is a little bit uncomfortable for people who have been in the industry prior to, because I know for myself, at first I was like, are you serious? Like, we've worked so hard to be in this, body type. But now, I think it's a good thing, because one, within those standards, I think that we all felt so much pressure. I've been at a casting with beautiful, beautiful, beautiful models, and I can see that everybody there is insecure and unsure of themselves. I'm like, we're all tens, like, and it was,
but you're like fighting for like one position. Most castings, 100 girls, and like only need one. So it's like you're all kind of like competing.
The reason that modeling is disempowering in this way is because we are begging someone else, which we as women have been taught to do in all aspects of life, and not just as models, but I think especially as models, we're really embodying that misogyny of just like begging someone else to accept us, and to say that we're good enough, and to say like please give me a job, like please give me this validation, instead of knowing like that we have something so special and so unique and so different. We're moving into a space where we have the opportunity to build our own brands, to actually create our own value. These brands, like, they do need creators, and people that have that inner spirit and beauty. And I think we're starting to recognize that more. And I think that is a really positive turn of events.
See the difference between Victoria's Secret, which was a very misogynistic brand, and like the way they treated and showed women. Then you look at, you know, women lingerie brand like Rihanna's, you know, Savage Fenty, which I just watched.
I saw your story today.
Just watched her third volume yesterday. The representation in that show was like amazing, and I feel like every type of person can watch that and see themselves and be like, they look good, like they look sexy in like an empowered way, not in like a, you know,
like a dog on a leash.
Like I'm not sexy for anybody else, but like sexy for myself. Like you could tell the models in the show, like they're all like really feeling themselves because they feel like they're, you know, they feel sexy, they feel good,
they own
but
it.
like
they own it.
Yeah.
And that like has such a meaning to me, because I think that like for a long time the models were not the ones who owned their beauty or their body. It was for somebody else.
Right.
It was, you know, for some designer to, you know, have the most beautiful models attributed to his or her success. And he or she owned the beauty of the models. You know, men love to date beautiful women because for whatever reason that is like a power status
for
status symbol. It's like
an accessory.
Yeah, property. It's really, you know, and then the same thing with like some of these photographers that, oh God, I'm so glad that that era is coming to an end, because it was like these photographers that had all these followers on Instagram and whatever. And it was like, they have the blue check mark and they're like shooting with all these big names. It was like, but they're not even like, they're not even that good. They're just shooting really beautiful.
Yeah, they're
like,
just shooting
really
like
good models.
Famous, they're
not even doing anything. They're not
right.
even doing anything crazy.
Right.
You know?
That is very true.
So it was like the models, like, and even, you know, like at a nightlife table, you know, someone will come up to the promoter and see all the beautiful one, and they'll be like, wow, they'll shake the promoter's hand like, wow, man.
Like, you're the man.
You really did something. Like, what? Like, why is he getting, like,
why is he getting props for, like,
he didn't do
anything.
So I think a lot of models sort of internalize that idea that they, you know, don't own their own beauty, and that they're constantly having to like seek validation outside of themselves.
Right.
I think it's moving in the right direction, because now we can start to validate people based on the work they do, who they are, and not just how they look. And they can say, they have the power to say, like, I know what I'm worth. You need me. Again, it is a bit of a shift, but it is asking and demanding us to bring more to the table.
Right.
Again,
it's like, what's different about you? And I've had to ask myself that, because sometimes I'm like, I need to take a step back and actually like look at myself, and like I don't just want to be pretty. Like I'm not just a pretty face. I don't even want to be just a good model.
Yeah.
Like I know that like I am so much more than that. And like I think that each model, like even if modeling is your main focus, like your creativity expands in so many different ways, you know, like how I like styling, or like, you know, painting, or like there's so many creative outlets for us, like, and I feel like we limit ourselves in general to like these titles outside of modeling, even just like, you know, jobs, like I'm a, I don't know, technician or something. Like we put these like boxes on ourselves. If we like take away these labels, or like we can just continue to add them.
Right.
Like we don't have to just be one thing.
Right.
We don't just have to be a model.
Yeah.
Like we can be an artist, a writer, we can be a singer, we can be a dancer, we can be, you know, a teacher. Like I feel like I'm in this time, like I'm meeting so many models that do so many things. And it's difficult because modeling doesn't always pay the bills.
Yeah.
So like a lot of models have to find other jobs and stuff, which is difficult to like, especially in cities like LA and New York, very expensive. Like you gotta have
You
multiple hats because
you gotta
pay rent.
Right.
But like I think it's also a beautiful thing to see like models just like passionate about different things, and even though it's hard and even though it's busy and stressful and overwhelming at times, like that uncomfortability lets you grow to like a person you didn't even know that you could be. Finding those like new labels for yourself or removing some labels, like, but what am I, or who am I, or what do I want
to be?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a really good point, because it has asked us to look at ourselves and make these decisions of who we want to be beyond just modeling, because that was something like, that was my entire identity.
Right.
Pre-pandemic. I was like, yeah, I'm a model.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I'm from Missouri and like a sweet, like wholesome Midwestern girl. But that was like, that was the gist.
That was like the face. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you also have to like sit back and be like, who else am I past this?
No, for sure. And I definitely like that. I had like a bit of an identity crisis when the pandemic hit. And I was like, okay, like I'm not a model anymore for sure. Like I'm in Oldsfield, Missouri, definitely not vibing on set. And it was like, who am I then? And it was such a difficult, this has been such a difficult period of time, I know, for many people. But I was really grateful in the end. I've been really grateful to have that opportunity to look back at myself. Like now when I'm getting into these other art forms, such as, you know, writing and music, it's a lot easier for me to find my own like confidence and self-worth when I look in the mirror and I notice, you know, like maybe I'm breaking out or have like a wrinkle or like a human thing. Instead of, you know, freaking out and getting super anxious like I would do in the past, because that meant I wasn't going to get a job.
Right.
Like I wasn't going to be able to pay the bills. Now my brain can kind of be like, hey, your beauty is secondary. Like you have so many amazing talents and qualities, and you happen to be beautiful. You don't, not so much weight and pressure is on that. And so I think that, you know, that's why it is so important for models to have an identity outside of the industry, because if your entire value is dependent on your appearance, like, oh, we can't trust our own brains with that kind of thing.
Especially when, like, you know, going into agencies, photographers, and, you know, they'll all have their comments to say on your appearance. And so, like you said, then you're just like internalizing other people's thoughts, and then you're like, oh, but what about this? Should I be worried about this too?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's so subjective.
Right.
You know?
So I'd say just like not getting too caught up in it. Really genuinely look at like, am I pursuing this because this is like truly me, or am I like doing these things or these type of jobs for somebody else? Like, you don't have to take every job. What is meant for you will find you.
Yes.
You know, like those things will come along in your timing.
Yeah. And I think also just like making sure that we're still having fun.
Yeah.
Because if we're not having fun, then what's the point?
You're learning, you're growing.
Yeah. Just, you know, taking advantage of like a fun opportunity to be creative, make people travel, and not putting so much pressure on it.
Yeah.
All right, Liliana. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was such a joy to have you here. I'm super excited to be doing this and starting more open, honest conversations around the modeling industry, so that we can empower each other and really like take ownership of our careers and our lives, and just, you know, be more fulfilled and happy and genuine, and all the good, warm, fuzzy, kumbaya kind of things. So
yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, guys, this has been the Next Gen Models podcast. If you haven't already, go check out our Instagram. We are Secrets of Modeling. And we have a book called Dirty Little Secrets of Modeling for those who want to pursue a career in this industry. It is a full encompassing guide about everything you need to know in this industry and how to deal with the stresses of the pressures, eating disorders, creeps, photographers, agencies, contracts, traveling, model apartments, the whole thing. It's all in there. So go check it out, and the link in the bio on Secrets of Modeling, and tune in next time.